My name is Elizabeth. And 4 years ago my daughter looked me in the eyes and said, "You're old, Mom. He deserves better." She was talking about my husband, her stepfather. Last Tuesday she called me from the county jail, sobbing into the phone. "Help me, please. I have nothing left." I listened to her cry for 30 seconds. Then I said something that surprised even me. "You helped yourself once, Carmen. Maybe now you'll learn what that really means." The line went quiet. Then she whispered, "How can you be so cold?" Cold. Well, this isn't cold. This is what happens when betrayal teaches you that some people only learn through consequences. And some mothers have to let their children fall to truly save them. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how a woman who gave everything learned to give nothing at all. Have you ever loved someone so completely that you missed the moment they stopped loving you back? Stay with me, because this story will change how you see family forever. I used to be the kind of woman who believed love could fix anything. Naive, maybe. But when you've raised a daughter alone, working double shifts just to keep the lights on, hope becomes your survival mechanism. Carmen was my world. My beautiful, brilliant girl with eyes like storm clouds and a smile that could charm anyone. When her father left us when she was 3, I made a promise. She would never feel abandoned again. For 13 years it was just us. Movie nights on our second-hand couch. Birthday cakes from box mix that we decorate like masterpieces. I taught her that family meant loyalty. That love meant sacrifice. That women like us, we stick together. Then Michael walked into our lives. He was everything I thought I needed. Successful, charming, 10 years older, with silver at his temples and hands that had never known real work. He owned 3 restaurants and drove a car that cost more than I'd made in 2 years. But what drew me to him wasn't the money. It was how he looked at me. Like I was worth something. Like I was beautiful, not just useful. Carmen was 16 when we married. She seemed happy. Called him Dad within months, something that made my heart swell. Michael adored her too. Paid for her private school, bought her a car for her 18th birthday, encouraged her dreams of studying business. I thought I'd finally given her the father she deserved. The stability we'd both craved. For 4 years we were perfect. Or at least I thought we were. I should have noticed the changes. How Carmen started dressing differently. More sophisticated, more aware. How she'd linger when Michael came home from work, asking about his day with an interest that seemed too intense for a stepdaughter. How Michael began complimenting her more than me. "Carmen's so smart," he'd say. "She really gets business. You should be proud." I was proud and blind. But pride, I learned, can be the most dangerous emotion of all. Because while I was busy being proud of my daughter, she was busy planning to take everything I loved. The night my world ended started like any other Tuesday. I was in the kitchen making Michael's favorite dinner, lamb with rosemary, the recipe his mother had taught me. Carmen was supposed to be at her friend Zara's house, studying for finals. She was 20 now, in her junior year, still living at home because family should stay close. Michael was late. Again. The 3rd time that week. When I called him, it went straight to voicemail. When I called Carmen to ask if she'd heard from him, her phone was off too. That's when the doubt crept in. Not suspicion, just unease. I waited until midnight. Then I heard his car in the driveway. But there were 2 car doors closing, not one. I watched from the upstairs window as Michael and Carmen walked to the front door together. She was wearing a dress I'd never seen. Black, expensive, too mature for a college student. Her hand was on his arm. They were laughing about something. I met them in the foyer, trying to keep my voice light. "Where were you two?" Carmen's face went pale. Michael cleared his throat. "Business dinner." Carmen wanted to learn about restaurant management. At midnight, the silence stretched between us like a wire about to snap. That's when Carmen stepped forward. My beautiful daughter, with tears already forming in her eyes, looked at me and said the words that would haunt me for years. "Mom, I need to tell you something. I'm in love with Michael." And he's in love with me too. I laughed. Actually laughed. Because the alternative was screaming, and I'd never been a screamer. Carmen, that's not funny. I'm not joking. Her voice was steady now, almost defiant. We've been together for 6 months. 6 months. While I was cooking his dinners and washing his clothes and believing we were a family. I looked at Michael, my husband, the man who'd promised to love and protect both of us. Tell her she's confused, I whispered. He couldn't meet my eyes. Elizabeth, I never meant for this to happen. But it did happen, Carmen said, and there was something in her voice I'd never heard before. Something cold. And Mom, you have to understand, you're 43. Michael's 53. You're both getting older, but I'm young. I can give him things you can't. The room tilted. Things I can't. Energy. Ambition. A future. She stepped closer to Michael, and he didn't pull away. You've gotten comfortable, Mom. You've stopped trying. Michael deserves someone who still dreams big. I stared at this stranger wearing my daughter's face. I raised you, I whispered. And I'm grateful. But I'm not you. I won't settle for a quiet life in a quiet house with quiet dreams. Michael and I, we want more. Michael finally spoke. Elizabeth, you're a good woman. You deserve someone who can love you the way you need to be loved. I thought that was you. I thought so too. Comment below. Have you ever had someone you trusted completely destroy that trust? Because what happened next taught me that sometimes the people who hurt us most are the ones we die to protect. That night I packed one suitcase. I didn't scream. I didn't throw things. I didn't beg. I just left. Because sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is walk away with your dignity intact. I had no idea that 4 years later, that dignity would be the only weapon I'd need. The first month after I left, I lived in a studio apartment above a bakery. Every morning, I woke up to the smell of fresh bread and the sound of my own breathing. No one else's schedule to consider, no one else's needs to anticipate. It was terrifying and liberating. I'd been someone's mother for 20 years, someone's wife for 4. I'd forgotten how to be just Elizabeth. The divorce was swift. Michael was generous with the settlement. Guilt money, I suppose. Enough to start over. Not enough to maintain the lifestyle I'd grown accustomed to. Carmen didn't call. Not once. I saw the engagement announcement in the society pages 3 months later. Local entrepreneur Michael Hartwell to wed Carmen Warren. The photo showed them at some charity gala, her in white silk, him beaming like he'd won the lottery. The article mentioned how the happy couple met through family connections and how Carmen was a rising star in the business world. No mention of me. I'd been erased from their story completely. That night, I cried for the last time over them. The next morning, I started building something new. I'd always had an eye for design. It's what drew Michael to me initially. I could walk into any space and see its potential. So I took my settlement money and started Warren Interiors. Small at first. A friend's living room. A neighbor's kitchen. Word spread slowly, but it spread. I discovered something about myself during those rebuilding months. I was stronger than I'd ever imagined. Without someone else's needs drowning out my own voice, I could hear myself think. I could make decisions based on what I wanted, not what would make everyone else happy. I bought a small house in the arts district. Nothing like the mansion I'd shared with Michael, but it was mine. Every paint color, every piece of furniture, every plant in every window. Chosen by me for me. I learned to cook for one without feeling lonely. I learned to sleep in the center of the bed. I learned that solitude and loneliness are not the same thing. But I also learned something else. I was watching them. Not stalking, I'm not that kind of woman. But Carmen had made her social media public. And Michael's business was often in the local news. I told myself I was just keeping informed. They married 8 months after my divorce was final. A lavish ceremony at the country club where I'd once been a member. Carmen wore a dress that cost more than most people's cars. They honeymooned in Tuscany. Bought a bigger house. Carmen started working at Michael's company as Director of Strategic Development. A title that sounded impressive but meant nothing. I watched her transform from the girl who used to help me fold laundry into someone I didn't recognize. Designer clothes, expensive jewelry. A coldness in her eyes that hadn't been there before. Michael looked older, tired, but successful. His restaurants were expanding, his net worth growing. For 3 years, I watched them live the life that had once been mine. And slowly, I began to notice cracks. You see, when you build a relationship on betrayal, you're building on quicksand. And quicksand, no matter how solid it looks on the surface, always gives way eventually. Michael's business practices had always been creative. When we were married, I'd ask questions about certain deals, certain partnerships that seemed too good to be true. He'd kiss my forehead and tell me not to worry about business stuff. But now, watching from the outside, I could see patterns I'd missed before. Carmen, meanwhile, was spending money faster than even Michael could make it. Her Instagram was a constant stream of luxury. Vacations, shopping sprees, jewelry that cost more than most people's annual salaries. I wasn't hoping for their downfall. I was just observing. My business was thriving. I'd hired 2 assistants and was booked 6 months out. I'd even started dating again. Nothing serious, but it felt good to remember that I was still a woman worth pursuing. I was happy. Genuinely, quietly happy. Which is why, when my phone rang at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday in October, I almost didn't answer. Unknown number. Probably a wrong number or a telemarketer. But something made me pick up. And that's when I heard my daughter's voice for the first time in 4 years. What would you do if the person who destroyed your life called begging for help? Keep watching, because my answer surprised even me. Mom. Her voice was small, broken. Nothing like the confident woman who'd stolen my husband. Carmen. Oh God, you answered. I wasn't sure you would. I wasn't sure you'd even. Mom, I'm in so much trouble. I sat down slowly, my heart racing despite my calm voice. What kind of trouble? It's Michael. The FBI raided our house this morning. They arrested him. They said I'm going to be arrested too. For what? Money laundering, embezzlement, tax evasion. She was crying now, ugly sobs that made her words barely intelligible. They froze all our accounts. I can't even afford a lawyer. Mom, I have nothing. Nothing. I closed my eyes and felt something I hadn't expected. Not satisfaction, but a strange kind of peace. Where are you now? At Zara's. But I can't stay here. The reporters. They're everywhere. Mom, please. I know I hurt you. I know what I did was unforgivable. But you're the only family I have left. Family. The word she'd forgotten when she decided I was too old, too boring, too settled for the life she wanted. Carmen, why are you calling me? 'Cause I need help. I need money for a lawyer. I need somewhere to stay until this gets sorted out. I need. Her voice broke. I need my mom. For a moment, just a moment, I felt the old instinct kick in. The mother in me that had always rushed to fix her problems, to shield her from consequences. But then I remembered something she'd said that night 4 years ago. I won't settle for a quiet life with quiet dreams. Carmen, do you remember what you told me the night you chose Michael over me? Silence. You said I was old. That I'd gotten comfortable. That Michael deserved someone who still dreamed big. Mom, I was young. I was stupid. You said I'd stop trying. That you wouldn't settle for what I'd settled for. Please, I'm begging you. I stood up and walked to my window, looking out at the life I'd built from nothing. My garden. My home. My peace. Carmen, I have a question for you. Anything. When you were living in that mansion, wearing those designer clothes, posting those photos from Tuscany, did you ever think about me? Another silence. Did you ever wonder if I was okay? If I was lonely? If I needed help? Mom. Did you ever think about calling? Not to apologize. I know that was too much to ask. But just to see if I was alive. I wanted to. But Michael said. Michael said what? He said it would be better if we made a clean break. That it would be easier for everyone. Easier for everyone. Or easier for you. She was crying harder now. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was selfish and cruel and I destroyed our family. But Mom, I'm your daughter. Doesn't that mean anything? I felt something shift inside me. Not forgiveness, not yet. But clarity. Carmen, you're right. You are my daughter. And because you're my daughter, I'm going to do something for you that no one else will. Thank you. God, thank you. I knew you'd. I'm going to let you handle this yourself. The line went quiet. What? You told me 4 years ago that you were ambitious. That you dreamed big. That you wouldn't settle for a quiet life like mine. My voice was steady, almost gentle. This is your chance to prove it. Mom, please. I can't do this alone. You weren't alone when you decided to betray me. You had Michael. You had his money, his connections, his resources. You built a life on that foundation. That foundation is gone. Then build a new one. You're young, remember. You have energy and ambition. You told me you could give Michael things I couldn't. Prove it. Give yourself something I can't. The strength to face your consequences alone. Tell me in the comments, was I being cruel, or was I finally being the mother she needed? Because what I said next changed everything. Mom, how can you be so cold? Cold. I almost smiled. Carmen, this isn't cold. This is what you taught me. You taught me that love isn't enough. That loyalty is optional. That family is just a word we use until we find something better. I never said that. You didn't have to. You showed me. I could hear her breathing, ragged and desperate. You helped yourself to my husband, my home, my life. I continued. You helped yourself to everything I'd built. So now, help yourself to a solution. You're a smart woman. You told me so yourself. Please. Carmen, I love you. I will always love you. But I will never again be the woman who saves you from yourself. Hung up. And for the first time in 4 years, I slept through the night. 3 days later, Carmen was arrested. I watched the news coverage from my living room, a cup of tea growing cold in my hands. There she was, my daughter, in handcuffs, being led into a courthouse. Her hair was unwashed, her clothes wrinkled. She looked small, fragile. The reporter's voice was crisp, professional. Carmen Hartwell, wife of restaurateur Michael Hartwell, has been charged with conspiracy to commit fraud and money laundering. Sources say the couple used their businesses to funnel illegal gambling profits through a network of shell companies. Gambling profits. That was new information. The camera caught her face as she stumbled on the courthouse steps. For just a moment, she looked directly into the lens, and I saw something I recognized. The same lost expression she'd worn as a little girl when she'd broken something precious and didn't know how to fix it. But she wasn't a little girl anymore. My phone rang constantly that week. Reporters wanting comments about my estranged daughter. Old friends asking if I was okay. Even Michael's lawyer called, fishing for information about what I might know. I said nothing to anyone. 2 weeks later she called again. This time from county jail. Mom, they denied my bail. My court-appointed lawyer says I could get 15 years. Her voice was different now. Mueller. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something that sounded almost like the daughter I'd raised. I'm sorry to hear that. The other inmates. They know who I am. They've seen the news. They call me Princess, and they laugh when I cry. I closed my eyes. Carmen. I know you hate me. I know I deserve this. But Mom, I'm scared. I'm so scared. For a moment I wavered. This was my child. My baby girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. But then I remembered something else. The way she'd looked at me that night 4 years ago. Not with love or regret, but with pity. Like I was something to be discarded. Carmen, do you remember what you said to me about settling? Mom, please don't. You said you wouldn't settle for a quiet life. That you wanted more than what I had. I was wrong. I was so wrong. No, I said quietly. You weren't wrong. You were honest. Maybe for the first time in your life, You were completely honest about who you are. I'm not that person anymore. Aren't you? Because that person, the one who took what she wanted without caring who got hurt, she's the reason you're in that cell. Silence. You wanted more than a quiet life, Carmen. Well, this is more. This is consequences. This is what happens when you build a life on someone else's pain. How can you be so cruel to your own daughter? I stood up and walked to my mirror, looking at the woman I'd become. Stronger, firmer, free. I'm not being cruel, sweetheart. I'm being honest. Just like you were honest with me that night. Mom. You helped yourself once, remember? You helped yourself to everything I loved. Maybe now you'll learn what that really means. Hung up. This time I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel angry. Felt complete. Some of you are probably thinking I'm heartless. Others are cheering. Comment below. What would you have done? Because this story isn't over yet. 6 months later, I drove past the mansion where I'd once lived as Michael's wife. It was empty, overgrown. A for sale sign tilted in the front yard, and I could see newspapers piling up on the front steps. I didn't stop. I didn't even slow down. But I smiled. Carmen was sentenced to 8 years. Michael got 12. The news coverage had moved on to other scandals, other falls from grace. I never visited her in prison. I never wrote letters or sent money to her commissary account. Some people called me heartless. Carmen's few remaining friends whispered that I was a cold mother, that blood should mean more than pride. But they didn't understand. This wasn't about revenge. This was about love. Real love. The kind that doesn't enable. The kind that doesn't rescue someone from the consequences of their choices. Carmen had to learn what I'd learned when she left me with nothing. That you can survive losing everything. That you can rebuild from ashes. That strength isn't something someone gives you. It's something you find in yourself. My business continued to grow. I hired more staff, opened a second location. I started dating a kind man named David who made me laugh and never once asked about my past. I was happy. Not the desperate, clinging happiness I'd felt with Michael, but something deeper, quieter, more real. 3 years into Carmen's sentence, I received a letter. Not from her, from another inmate. A woman named Rosa who said Carmen had asked her to write because Carmen was too ashamed to reach out herself. The letter was short. Your daughter talks about you every day. She says you were the best mother in the world and she destroyed that. She's different now. Quieter. She reads a lot. She's learning Spanish from me. She says when she gets out she wants to be someone you could be proud of again. She doesn't expect forgiveness. She just wanted you to know she finally understands what you tried to teach her. I folded the letter and put it in my jewelry box. Maybe someday we'd talk again. Maybe someday she'd call and I'd answer, and we'd find a way to be mother and daughter again. But not yet. Some lessons take time to learn. And some love is strong enough to wait. What do you think? Will Elizabeth ever forgive Carmen? Should she? Drop your thoughts below. And if this story moved you, subscribe to Boundless Revenge. Because sometimes, the most powerful revenge is simply letting someone face the truth about themselves. This is Elizabeth's story. But it's also the story of every woman who's ever been told she wasn't enough. Every mother who's loved too much. Every person who's had to choose between enabling someone they love and saving themselves. Here at Boundless Revenge, we don't celebrate cruelty. We celebrate truth. We celebrate the quiet strength it takes to let someone you love face their consequences. Because sometimes the greatest act of love is saying no. If Elizabeth's story resonated with you, you're not alone. Subscribe to join our community of survivors, of women who've learned that revenge isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just living well. Next week, I'll share the story of a woman whose sister stole her inheritance, and how she got it back in the most unexpected way. Until then, remember, pain finds purpose, betrayal becomes power, and every heartbreak has a reckoning. This is Boundless Revenge. And this is just the beginning.